TWiGames.com.
Welcome to this week's episode of TWiGames.com. We begin with Respawn Studios and the Starcraft scandal, but first, the March 2010 NPD results. The Wii led the way for consoles with 560,000, followed by the 360 with 340,000 and the PS3 with 315,000. God of War 3 led the way for software, selling 1.1 million, followed by Pokemon Soul Silver at 1 million and Final Fantasy 13 for the PS3 at 838,000. Brian, how wrong were our predictions?
Rich, let's just make this straight. You were more wrong than I was wrong. Because
Really?
you thought that Final Fantasy would sell more in the 360, but I was clearly wrong because I said Pokemon would clearly be number 1, and you said God of War would be 4. God of War fanboy would be number 4. How did this sell so much, Rich?
First of all, I thought I actually said like 5 or 6 on God of War. I mean, I was way off on that. In fact, I made a bet with Matt that I was like, God of War 3 is going to outsell the highest selling Pokemon game. And immediately after that, I was like, I'm an idiot. But it did it.
Yeah.
1.1 million. How did it do it? Well, God of War is just Sony's #1 franchise at this point, Gran Turismo aside. I mean, I think it's just clear as day.
Look, it wasn't a big sell on the PS2. We got to make that, straight.
It was a big seller, but not a massive seller.
So this is a big surprise.
Yeah, it's huge.
I think it was a big surprise.
Right. God of War 3 on the PS3 outsold God of War 2 on the PS2 in its opening month.
And that wasn't
And the PS2 had like quadruple the install base of the PS3. I mean, it doesn't add up, but great. Congratulations. It's a great game, and it deserves the #1 spot.
But what does that say to you about the install base?
It says that I think that the PS3 has reached the level of install base where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree.
At this
I
point,
completely agree.
If you release a great game and if you release a AAA title, it will sell.
And Sony has to be happy. This is finally their first-party game to crack 1 million in NPD. Metal Gear Solid 4 was at like 900. It was so close.
Yep.
Congratulations, Zach, because I thought it was a great game.
Great game.
I'll tell you what else. Final Fantasy 13 combined.
Shocker.
Biggest opener for any Final Fantasy in North America.
Yeah, so I think that, a lot of people are saying, oh, but 360 sold half as much. Well, who cares? I mean,
it was 500,000. That's nothing to laugh at.
I mean,
also,
this justifies them making Final Fantasy multi-platform. Will we see Versus multi-platform? Honestly, I don't think this confirms that because Versus is obviously going to sell a percentage of what Final Fantasy 13 sells, at least in my opinion. So when you weigh that, together with the however much it costs to make the 360 version, I don't know.
But I mean, obviously Square Enix is probably happy about that.
Yeah.
500,000 is nothing to laugh at.
No.
But I just want to say why you were so wrong about the 360 and why I was so right.
This shocked me.
How did this shock you, Rich? Final Fantasy has been synonymous with PlayStation for years and years and years. If Halo was all of a sudden multi-platform next gen, do you think that first game would sell more on PlayStation? No, because the association with it would be Microsoft. But afterwards, perhaps it could break that down.
I don't know, Brian. I mean, honestly, if let's say Bungie, right? They're independent now, and let's just say that they own rights to Halo and they made a Halo game for PS4 and Xbox, whatever, 720, right? Let's say the PS3 had double the install base. You're telling me that Halo wouldn't sell more on the PS4?
I would continue my reasoning of logic because of that, association.
Bri, as I do so often on this show, while I talk, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I just thought of, Bri?
Tell me.
Mr. Final Fantasy synonymous with the PlayStation brand, so it sold more. Grand Theft Auto. Explain, Bri. Explain. Because Grand Theft Auto is synonymous with the PlayStation brand, and it was outsold by the 360 version by about 2-to-1 ratio. Explain.
Well, you explain for me. Because back when that was
no.
Back when it was released, Sony was not healthy. They didn't have a big enough install base.
Would they have the flu?
So it didn't affect it.
What are you talking about?
It didn't affect it. Let's just put the bottom line that I was right about the PS3 version selling
explain
more.
Explain that.
And you were wrong.
I agree.
Let's just end on that.
I agree. You were right, but your reasoning for being right is completely wrong.
I'm glad you agree with me, Rich. So let's just move on. Let's talk about Battlefield, right? Huge numbers. And you know why they're huge? What was it? 800,000 on the 360 alone, 400,000 on the PS3. And they already said it sold more on the PC than consoles.
They
That is
didn't
a
say it
huge
sold
win
more.
for EA.
I thought that they said that there were more players, aka pirates.
No, I'm pretty sure. I think you have
They
to
said it
register.
sold more?
Yeah, I think you have to register. So I think that's what I can tell. But that is a huge win for EA.
Yeah.
And I honestly think they have to give some of this credit to Modern Warfare. I'm sure there's a lot of players who thought, I like military shooters. I want to try something new.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think there's also a lot of credit that goes to Modern Warfare and the fact that it had a lot of glitches and people were getting sick of it and they wanted to move on to something else. But let's talk about the top 20 real quick, Brian. This is pretty interesting. A lot of games came out this month. A lot. Games that were advertised. Red Steel 2, Just Cause 2. These were advertised heavily on television. did not crack the top 20, Bri.
Resonance of Fate.
Resonance of Fate. I mean, what else do we have here? We have Red Steel 2, Yakuza 3, Metro 2033, Resonance of Fate, and Just Cause 2. None of them cracked the top 20.
None of them cracked the top 20.
But then you have Heavy Rain in its second month outselling those games. That's very surprising to me.
That is very surprising.
God of War Collection, the smartest thing Sony has ever done, has been in the top 20 since it's released. This game is going to sell over 1 million copies.
I want it to sell more than God of War 3 because I want to see more classics from PS2 on the system.
Look, no matter how, let's say, okay, it was easy for them to upscale God of War because they were already amazing. It's probably going to be a lot harder to upscale, say, Shadow of Colossus and Ico. But however much harder it is, it's still going to pay off, Bri. It can't, the game is already made, right? It'll probably take a very small team a few months to create the PlayStation 3 versions of those games. And even if it sells 300,000 worldwide, I'm sure it'll be worth it. They need to get that out there.
And this is another month where you were wrong because you thought the Wii was on its decline. And now it's all of a sudden it's back up.
When did I ever say the Wii
was on its decline? Last month you said it's telling that this system is only for holiday purchase. And now it's back up top. I stand by that. 560.
I stand by that.
If that's for holiday purchase, and the PS3 and 360 are for the crumbs. Because it's,
right.
Let's put it this way.
I stand by that.
The DS.
A lot of people have birthdays in February, in March, Bri. March is the #1 month of birthdays.
I want to talk about the DS. I said it was 800,000. I was wrong. It was 700,000. That is a monstrous number.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
The DS outsold the entire PlayStation family.
Let's see how it does in April, though, after the announcement of the 3DS, Bri. But wait, back to the Wii.
Hold on a second. Let's just say something real quick.
All right.
The PS2 sold, 1,000 less than the PSP?
Yeah.
And for some reason, Nintendo, who's dominating, has already announced their second version, and the PSP is just dying. It is dead. What is going on?
Not only is it dying, but Bri, it's been the same price for 3 years.
They're not even. Do they care about this thing at all?
If they drop the price to the PSP to $130, I think it would sell a lot.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like you and Matt might even consider buying it if it was $130, and especially with Peace Walker coming up. But Bri, it's interesting because on the flip side, the PSP consistently has been #1 in Japan for weeks. I'm talking for months.
They honestly could care less about the PSP here. It's just like a joke over here.
I don't know.
But Rich, let's talk about the gorilla in the room, as you put it, because you don't like elephants.
Yeah.
So the PS3 finally sold some software.
Yeah.
4 years later, whatever. They finally broke 1 million.
Yeah.
But they're dead last still in the console war. Explain this to me.
Look, Bri, a lot of people seem to be denying this fact, but there were severe shortages of the PS3 during the month of March. Severe shortages. This isn't news now. GameStop came out in March and said, yes, there are shortages of the PS3. Right. Sony came out, we're sorry, there are shortages, and there will be for a couple months. Amazon was out of stock the entire month. I mean, there were shortages, Bri. Yes, that's an excuse for their hardware numbers, but they are retarded, Bri.
Rich, I don't know what you're talking about. God of War and Final Fantasy aren't system sellers.
Right.
Why would they need to up the production?
In the month of God of War and Final Fantasy, the two biggest PlayStation franchises, Gran Turismo aside, how can you have shortages, Bri? I mean, look, honestly, I know how, because demand was much higher than their supply during the holidays. That's what they came out and said. I believe it. They sold over 1 million in the month of December.
I know they did, but come on.
No, Bri.
This is such incompetence.
No, it's multiple people are probably getting fired right now. Yeah. I mean, seriously, but
to be honest, I think I buy the shortages. I don't know how much it adds. I don't think it was going to beat the Wii or anything like that.
No.
But
by no means. But
so this is either two things: either the shortages affected it that much, or that even with all the software sales, it's not selling. Either way. Come on, Sony.
Yeah.
Come on with the shortage.
Either way, though. Now that we've talked about how they're at that point of the install base in the U.S. where it may not even matter for AAA games, does it really even matter how much hardware they sell?
It doesn't matter to us. But it matters that Sony's being stupid here. They just
had 7 games in the top 20, 4 of which were exclusives. And that's with half the install base of the 360 and probably 1/3 of the install base of the Wii. I mean, maybe hardware doesn't matter as much this generation.
Maybe they shouldn't keep up the demand. I agree with you.
And maybe for the first time, Bri, we have 3 healthy consoles on the market.
Yeah.